I said, well, number one, first, thank you very much for inviting me to your show. As for Islam being a religion of peace rather than violence, I don't know. So they either lost to autocratic governments or they lost to Islamists. We saw that where revolutions actually succeeded, like in Tunisia or Egypt, what happened? As soon as they were free elections, Islamists took it all. On the other hand, seculars, it's not that they don't have a doctrine, they do have one. It's called democracy, you know it all. The problem with democracy, the way they frame it, is that the Islamists would come and say, hey, we too, we love democracy, if only because we benefit from it in the ballot box. And we have Islam is the solution on top of it. So this is not a differentiating factor. We are Democrats too, but we have our own set of values on top of Islam.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Rima, for this extremely generous introduction. I'm really delighted to be here. And this thing should work soon, hopefully. Oh. Here we go. Okay, so hello everybody. I'm really glad to be here. So my name is Ahmed Benchemsi and I'm a journalist from Morocco. I would like to start this talk by an anecdote that happened to me in 2005. You probably remember that in 2005 there were terrorist attacks in London. More than 50 people died. You certainly remember that. That was terrible. It was all over the news. Everyone was talking about this. And there was a lot of talk about linking Islam and terrorism. That was really a hard time. And a few days after the attack, I was in my office in Casablanca, Morocco, and I received a phone call. And there was this guy, he said, I'm a producer for a French TV show, and actually we would like to address this gross misconception that is so present in the Western media these days that links Islam to terrorism. And this is wrong, obviously. And we read your magazines. We know that your magazines are pretty liberal and progressive. So we would like to invite you to our show, he said, so you can explain that Islam is not a religion of terror and of violence, and it is rather a religion of peace and enlightenment. And I said, well, number one, first, thank you very much for inviting me to your show. As for Islam being a religion of peace rather than violence, I don't know. In fact, Bin Laden does speak arguments from the Quran. He doesn't make them up, does he? But on the other hand, you got a guy that I love. His name is Malek Shebel. He's an Algerian scholar. He wrote a lot of books. Among them was the Islamic Kama Sutra and the Islamic Ontology of Pleasure and Wine. I love this guy. He also picks arguments from the Quran, just like Bin Laden. Probably not the same arguments, but still. So my point is, religion is neither this or that. It's whatever you want it to be, just depending on the verses you pick. That holds true for Islam, and it holds true for any other religion. Actually, the question of what religion is a debate that has been opened when religion was invented thousands of years ago, and it's still not closed, and I guess it will never be. So it's a never-ending debate. And I told the guy, if I come to your show, it will be to claim the right to not care. It will be to claim the right to not be defined by religion. And then the guy told me, well, I'm confused. Aren't you a Muslim? And I said, okay. Well, what's your name? I asked him. He said, my name is Paul. I said, okay, Paul, are you a Christian? And he said, well, yes. Yeah, probably. When I was a kid, my parents used to take me to church, but, you know, it's been a while, and didn't really go there. I'm a French guy, you know, so... and he said, well, you know, it's just a personal thing. I don't really care. I said, exactly. You don't care. Why do you assume that I do? Is it because your name is Paul and my name is Ahmed? Right? So actually, what this guy was doing is that he was giving me the choice of either being this, like a fanatic, angry Muslim, or being this. There's much cuter, right? So Paul was telling me that I should either identify to this or this. But what if I wanted to identify to this? This picture was taken in a Moroccan city named Essaouira. And this was during a music festival that happens once a year, and you got 500,000 people coming from Morocco and all around the Arab world, and dancing and partying and smoking cigarettes, and having fun during 5 days. And I can tell you that religion is the last thing on their mind. But for Paul, this option just didn't exist. I was either this or that, but not this. So what I told him is that Paul was not giving me a third choice. I told him that, you know what, Paul, you're just assuming that I'm religious without even asking me. I'm not saying that I'm not. I'm saying that your assumption is wrong. You should not assume without asking me. And actually what you're doing is that you're just tagging foreheads of millions of people without asking them. And this is wrong. You are just, and by doing so, by just labeling people religious without asking them, you are just depriving them of something that you consider your right, which is freedom of choice. And mind you, Paul, freedom of choice is part of universal human rights, and it's called universal for a reason, because it's valid for all the universe, and I'm also a member of the universe, I said to Paul. And I said, if I go to your show, it will be to say this kind of stuff. And so, yeah, please stop imposing on me your essentialist, culturalist, orientalist, patronizing views. Just allow me to be a human being like you, I said. That's what I want to say if I come to your show. Then there was a long silence on the phone. And I had to say, Paul, are you here? And he said, well, yes, I'm here. It's just that I didn't really think of that. You know what? Let me call you back. Surprisingly, he never called me back. So, well, fast forward. This happened in 2005. Now fast forward to the Arab Spring, to last year. So you got this wonderful, very extremely inspiring revolutions that happened here and there in the Arab world that were led by these young people who are, very Facebook and internet savvy. And were these claims raised, like individual freedoms, freedom of thought, were they raised during the Arab Spring? Not really. And it's not because these young people didn't fully endorse human rights, including individual freedoms. No, they did. They did. But they didn't really raise those specific claims. Why not? I asked a lot of them. This is what I'm working on Stanford. So I had the opportunity, I had a chance to talk to a lot of activists from all throughout the Arab world. And I asked them, why didn't you claim individual freedoms at the same time that you were claiming democracy? Well, all of them said the same thing, is that, well, these are divisive questions. So we thought that was not the time to raise these questions because we needed to be federative. We needed to federate the people. So we needed to unite so we can take the dictators down. And then later, when the dictators are down, it will be time to come back to these issues, they said. And I thought, yeah, okay, well, fair enough. That makes sense. So fast forward again to now. Like the Arab Spring was 1.5 years ago. What happened since then? Did they come back to these issues? Not really. What happened, in fact, is that those young secular people who sparked all these revolutions, actually they just lost. They lost either to resilient autocratic governments, like in Bahrain or in the Gulf or in Syria. It's still going on, even though it's probably going to change soon, hopefully, but still it's still going on. So they either lost to autocratic governments or they lost to Islamists. We saw that where revolutions actually succeeded, like in Tunisia or Egypt, what happened? As soon as there were free elections, Islamists took it all. So of course, there are differences from one country to another. Tunisia is not Egypt, and Egypt is not Libya. There are some more differences in Libya. Situations differ from one country to another. But still, there is a global pattern. The global pattern is that whenever autocrats are gone, Islamists are second in line for power. That's the global pattern. So you may ask this a simple question, why? Why is that? Since the seculars, the young guys, were the ones who sparked the revolution, so how come they were just overplayed like that by the Islamists? Well, this is because secular activists in the Arab world, they miss two things that Islamists have. First thing is organization. Islamists had a long time to organize. The Islamist movement weren't born like 2 years ago or 1 year ago. The mother movement of Islamist groups in the Arab world is Muslim Brotherhood. You
all heard about it in Egypt. And this group was created in 1928, like that was almost 85 years ago. So this is their logo, Al-Ikhwan al-Muslimun, Muslim Brothers. So during all that time, these 80 years, they had ample time to develop a specific mode of functioning, which is a combination, an original combination between political activism and social charity, Islamic social charity. That was a very original thing to do, and they did it very well. And because of that, they managed to build strong and powerful grassroots organizations. They reached out to people in needy neighborhoods. They provided social services. The members of Muslim Brotherhood, what they do is that they donate a fixed share of their income every month. So at the end of the day, you have very strong, powerful, well-endowed, rich, and grassroots organization with a real network of solidarity that is built over time. So no wonder why whenever there's an election, they win, because they are prepared. They were seriously prepared, and it has been a long time they were prepared. On the other hand, the seculars, what do they have? They have Twitter, which is nice. I mean, this is not to belittle the importance of social media. They were very instrumental in the Arab Spring, but still, you can't replace a grassroots organization with a communication tool, right? Social media are not solidarity networks. They are not a grassroots organization. So this is very helpful, social media, when it comes to boost on momentum, to trigger enthusiasm, and to take people to the street. That's what happened during the Arab World. But this is very short-term lived. At the long term, what prevails is when you have strong and solid grassroots organization. So that's the first thing that Islamists have and that seculars don't have, organization. The second thing is a doctrine, and that is very important because, I mean, if it was enough to provide social services, I guess humanitarian workers would rule the world. So it takes a little politics as well, and politics goes through a doctrine, a set of values that you defend. Islamists have a doctrine. It's written just right there. Al-Quran Dusturuna, the Quran is our constitution. Simply, the motto of the Muslim Brotherhood is Al-Islam huwa al-hal, meaning Islam is the solution, whatever the problem. Unemployment, got a solution in Islam. Whatever you think of, well, that may sound a little simple and a little populist and probably insufficient, but it speaks to the unconscious of the people. So this is a powerful doctrine. On the other hand, seculars, it's not that they don't have a doctrine, they do have one. It's called democracy, you know it all. The problem with democracy, the way they frame it, is that the Islamists would come and say, hey, we too, we love democracy, if only because we benefit from it in the ballot box. And we have Islam is the solution on top of it. So this is not a differentiating factor. We are Democrats too, but we have our own set of values on top of Islam. The thing is, democracy is not on top of democracy. The thing is, democracy is not just a voting mechanism. If you dig a little bit, you find out that democracy is actually a whole set of principles, a whole philosophy that has a history that is derived from the findings of the Age of Enlightenment in Europe, that was shaped by French philosophers like Voltaire, Rousseau, or English philosophers like Locke, Hobbes. Anyway, it's a whole set of values, the major finding of which is the prevalence of reason, rationality, tolerance over passion, irrationality, and religious sectarianism. That's where democracy comes from. I'm not talking about the Greeks, just talking like a few centuries ago. And then these concepts, these findings of the Age of Enlightenment evolved, and in the beginning of the 20th century, they gave birth to a new concept that is called human rights. And human rights has in it another sub-concept which is called individual freedoms. The freedom to think, the freedom to believe, the freedom to express your views, the freedom to dispose of your body, including sexual freedom, why not? So all this subdivisions of human rights and of democracy at the end of the day, these are the line that is drawn between seculars and Islamists. On this, Islamists will not agree. They would agree on the voting thing, but they would not agree on this. So you would tell me, why didn't the seculars raise these issues to set the line between themselves and the Islamists? Well, the thing is, seculars in the Arab world are quite shy. They shy away from raising all these issues because actually they have some embedded self-fulfilling sense that they are doomed to fail. Because they feel that these issues are
will never be more than the preserve of a tiny, educated, westernized elite, and that the people, the broad masses, will never understand that because Islam is deeply ingrained in the minds of the population. In deeply Islamic societies, how can you talk about sexual freedom and freedom of belief and things like that? So that's what the seculars in the Arab world do feel, and they feel that they are doomed and that they will never be able to convince the people who count. Because this is mission impossible for them because these are deeply Islamic societies. Well, this is where I differ. I don't think that societies are necessarily all Islamic in the Arab world. And I'm not talking about the Jewish and Christian minorities. No, I'm talking about those who are supposed to be Muslims. The thing is, how would I say that? Things are not what they appear to be. It's like, X-Files, like the truth is out there. Okay, let me be more specific. I'm a citizen of Morocco, right? Which is a Muslim country by the constitution. And all the inhabitants of 99.9% of the inhabitants of Morocco are deemed to be Muslim by law, and so am I. So as a citizen of a country like this, we are in Ramadan right now. So Muslims are supposed not to eat during the day. So if I want to just eat something or have a glass of water during the day, well, I can't. I go to jail. That's the Moroccan law. 6 months in jail if I drink a bottle of water in the street during Ramadan by daylight. And there are a lot of similar laws in other Arab countries. Sex outside marriage, like premarital sex or free love, forbidden as well, because 6 months in jail if I am caught having sexual relationships with a woman who is not my wife yet. And again, and Morocco is quite a tolerant country with that regard, because in Saudi Arabia you would be you would receive lashes or something between lashes and stoning to death for this same offense, premarital or outside of marriage sex. Not even talking about homosexuality, of course. I mean, death penalty in a lot of Arab countries, and well, in a bunch of Gulf countries, but still forbidden by law in most of them. In Morocco, it will take you to jail as well. So forbidden. If I want to, drown my sorrow in booze because of all of that, I legally can't as well, because I'm supposed to be a Muslim, and therefore I'm not supposed to drink alcohol. So alcohol is not sold in a lot of Muslim countries officially. In Morocco it is sold, but it is meant to be sold to foreigners, to tourists, not to locals. So if I go in a bar and the bartender serves me a glass of wine, both him and I go to jail. That's the law in my home country. What if I said, well, you know what, this is a lot of constraints, so I have nothing against Islam, but still all these things, very constraining. So, you know what, I just want to change religion. I just want to be a convert to become a Christian or a Jewish or a Buddhist for that matter. I just want to change religion. I can't, legally speaking. This is forbidden too. And I go to jail for that, apostasy. And in other Gulf countries, it is a very severe offense. Actually, there's a guy in jail right now as we talk. His name is Hamza Kashghari, and he just sent a tweet questioning the Prophet's finding, and he was immediately jailed, and he's still jailed as we speak. Hamza Kashghari. In Tunis, 2 people were condemned to 7 years prison because they claimed they were atheists. So this is no joke. Like, this is the law. And so actually just doubting, just asking the question, is religion really something that I believe in? Just saying that openly is forbidden. In Morocco, the offense is called Za'za'at Aqidat Muslim, which means shaking the Muslim's faith. Like, if you express your doubts, you're shaking the faith of the person in front of which you express your doubt, and this is a legal offense. And you go to jail for that. So this is the law, right? Now, let me tell you about real life. In real life, I have never saw wilder parties than the one that are thrown in Gulf countries. I can tell you there's a lot of alcohol over there. I never saw such a concentration of alcohol than there. Morocco, Algeria, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and I'm probably missing a lot of Arab countries, are not only alcohol consumers, but producers. We produce wine. I strongly recommend Moroccan wine, by the way. It's excellent. So we produce it. And this joke about alcohol just being sold to foreigners? Come on. I mean, there are like 100 times more cans of beer sold every day in Morocco than there are of tourists in the whole country. So this is just ridiculous. No one believes in that, even the law enforcers themselves. Let's talk about sex. So yeah, as it happens, marriage, because that's the only legal way to have sex in the Arab world, marriage is also an economic endeavor. Before getting married, you need to have a job. You need to have an income to be able to sustain a household. You can't just be married like that. And the economic difficulties being what they are, and the unemployment rate being what it is, the average age for marriage in the Arab world is 31 years for men and 27 years for women. Think about it. You really think that we don't? Before 31 years? Seriously? About homosexuals, of course, I mean, the Arab world is like anywhere else in the world. There are homosexuals everywhere, and it's fine. I mean, it's, but in Iran. That's President Ahmadinejad said that in a conference in New York City in Colombia. He said, we don't have homosexuals in Iran. Actually, the audience just bursted in laugh. They thought he was joking. He was not joking. He was serious. So how delusional is that? So of course, there are homosexuals like everywhere else. As for following the fast or just, thinking differently, well, just think about it again. Why on earth would Arab people, of all people on the planet, be some kind of Orwellian robots that don't have illegal doubts? This is Big Brother stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous to assume that no one doubts, right? So this is the reality. What happens, in fact, is that all these things that are supposedly forbidden by law are practiced tens of millions of times a day. So what happens is that the law is broken tens of millions of times a day with the total knowledge of the authorities and of the government, who just cannot enforce the law because it's impossible. They would take half the population to jail. So this just doesn't make sense to enforce the law. So the bottom line is, Islam is not the #1 paradigm explaining Arab societies. Hypocrisy is. Yeah, but this is the truth. Delusion is. Sometimes schizophrenia is. And this shifty, double-faced attitudes, they became so ingrained in our minds that at some point we consider them as traditions. Like, let me give you an example. One of the many things you cannot do when you're a Muslim woman, by the dint of law again, is to marry a non-Muslim. What's a non-Muslim? Then that's a whole debate. But let's assume that blonde-haired, blue-eyed John from Ontario, Canada, would be not Muslim. So in this case, John would have to convert to Islam before marrying Khadija, okay? And he would have to change his name. John would have to become Muhammad, so he can marry Khadija, or Abdul Haq, or whatever. And I saw that tens of times in my own family. I mean, the John would say, why? I mean, I don't want to convert. I just want to, it's not about religion, it's about love. I love Khadija, I want to marry her. But the religion has nothing to do with that. And then Khadija's family would tell him, you know what, it's okay, just pretend. When the government clerk will come to you to register the marriage, just tell him your name is John, it's fine. And you will have a good night, and the day after you will wake up as John again, and that's it. It's no big deal, right? It's just an innocent tradition. But think about it. When did it become a tradition to lie to the government? Because that's what we are supposed to do, lie to the government. Basically, a society or societies based on lying and cheating all the time are just not sane. Not to say insane. And this is my society, and I feel entitled to speak about it. This is not a foreign view. I speak from the inside. So it is totally not sane to live in societies built on constant lies like this. Actually, it creates a lot of psychological disorders that cripples the very functioning of the society. The #1 of these disorders is the feeling of guilt. Because since everyone is violating the law and violating the religion and the law of the country all the time, well, everyone feels guilty all the time. And you know what? This is the #1 lever that is used by Islamists to recruit people. They play on the feeling of guilt of a lot of people. So this looks like a catch-22 situation. And how can we ever get out of that? So to the delusional systems that everything disappears. How can we ever get out of this? Well, here I want to talk to you about my experience. I was a journalist in Morocco, and I had a couple of news magazines. One was in French and the other one in Arabic. And the editorial line of these magazines was Le Maroc tel qu'il est, which means Morocco as it is. Basically, our editorial line consisted in uncovering schizophrenic attitudes. So we were featuring stories on social trends, on religious trends, we were constantly reporting from the field and publishing numbers and investigative stories, and also comments of sociologists, of psychologists, not only to uncover these attitudes, but to try to explain them. So this is some of the covers. We did Quel musulman sommes-nous? We had hard numbers on the real practice of Islam. And actually, there are a lot of pious people. I'm not saying that no one is pious, not at all. I'm just saying that this is a society that is diverse. You know, everyone thinks differently, and like everywhere else. Bled schizo, well, I guess the title is self-explanatory. Bled means country, schizophrenic country. Moroccans and sex, this is cover story. This young man is a very brave and courageous young man. His name is Abdullah Taya. He's a Moroccan writer. So far, he's the only Arab man who publicly claimed that he was a homosexual who did this coming out, and I'm very proud that this happened on my magazine. So this is the kind of stuff that we've been doing for 10 years. Of course, Islamists, they immediately attacked us fiercely and violently on the grounds that we were Western-minded secularists. Well, secularists we are, but not Western-minded. Our thing is to say that actually this secularism, we call it secularism from within, because we were only describing what was happening in the society. We were not trying to import whatever set of values out there. We were just observing what was going on here and trying to give it a meaning, to give it a sense, to wrap it in some consistent explanatory system. Yeah, and this, we call it secularism. So we're not making theory, we were making theory out of practice. We're not trying to subject reality to our evil foreign thoughts. We were just observing what was going on and naming it. And we were basically just telling to the people, you know what? Sorry. You're not crazy, you people. The system is. The society is. The way all these things function is weird. You're not weird. You're okay. And of course, you mean, Islamists say, okay, you know what? These ideas of yours, they are just elitist ideas, and they will never get out of a tiny circle of educated, westernized elites. Well, too bad for them. My two magazines were the best-selling magazines in Morocco, and we outranked our competitors by a large margin. So I guess this is the evidence that they were wrong on that. And why is that? It's because stifled by hypocrisy as the people were, everyone was ready to cheerfully embrace whatever news outlet that would just tell them, that would just give a sense and give a meaning to what they were already, to what people were already. Lots of people are living in guilt and sin all the time, and then we were here to tell them, it's okay, you're not freaks. It's the society that functions in a freaky way. You are just normal. And I am very proud to say that all these debates that we launched, like secularism, individual freedom, freedom of thought, we've been launching this consistently for 10 years, and now these are mainstream debates in Morocco, and this is something I'm really proud about. And I guess the same thing would work in all the Arab world, because the same causes produce the same consequences. So here's where we stand right now. So I'm going to recap before ending. Seculars in the Arab world need two things. Number one, organization, grassroots organization that would seriously reach out to people in a very effective way, the same way Islamists do it. And number two, a secular doctrine, but a secular doctrine that would not, a democratic doctrine that would not rely only on the voting mechanism, but also on the secular philosophy. The thing is, as I told you earlier, seculars are shy. They shy away from speaking out loud about their secularist views, so they're not confident. So the question is, how can they overcome this self-despising? How can they break the circle of failure? Well, I think that the missing link with that regard is this concept of secularism from within. What it means, actually, is that seculars in the Arab world should not preach secularism as a Western-inspired idea, because that's not what it is. They should just preach honest self-criticism rather than delusional hypocrisy. They should just preach transparency.
and say, you know what, we're not having any foreign thought, we're just observing what's going on here. And we want to stop lying for once. So politically speaking, this translates to political programs that would feature, of course, alongside free elections, accountability for those in charge, fight against corruption, and this very serious thing that all the people obviously need. But along with all these things, political programs should feature also secularism, and this means concretely the separation of mosque and state, meaning taking all religious references from positive law and then allowing people to have whatever attitude they want to have. I mean, to respect religion and to follow its principles is totally okay, as long as it's not enforced, as long as it's not out of compulsion and out of force. So, to end, I would say that seculars, if they advocate this secularism from within idea, they would be able to say that openly, blatantly, and the icing on the cake is that this claim would be made in the name of social authenticity. Take that, Islamists. Right. It's in the name of what the society is already, not in the name of any outside idea. You know what? Actually, what's at stake here is just to move from irrationality to rationality. No civilized society on the planet avoided that move. This is the indispensable condition for modernity. There is no way out of this. The Arab world will have to engage in this. There is no reason why we would be immune from that. We will have to engage in this sooner or later. There is no other way. And I believe the sooner the better. Thank you very much.